Introduction. The Invisible Inheritance. The indigenous peoples of the Americas possess a legacy that is unparalleled in human history, an inheritance that has not always been valued for its true, profound dimensions. Hidden within many of these vibrant ancient communities lies a silent, invisible, yet supremely valuable torrent, a substance that is neither gold nor water. We speak of type O blood. In the contemporary era of advanced genetics and molecular biology, the genetic information held by these populations is proving fundamental, not only for understanding the deep history of human civilization, but also for developing treatments against persistent and emerging diseases. As scientists delve into the indigenous American genome, they are continuously uncovering astonishing facets of humanity's evolutionary journey. Join us on this enigmatic, ancestral, and scientific expedition as we uncover the secrets of the blood that links the past, present, and future generations of the indigenous populations of the Americas. The overwhelming prevalence of type O blood in indigenous groups. Life, as we know it, is impossible without the continuous flow of blood. The study of this vital fluid can, surprisingly, reveal an immense amount about human migration and evolution. One of the most compelling aspects of genetic research conducted worldwide is the analysis of the distribution and frequency of different blood types. A particularly significant pattern emerges when studying the indigenous populations of the Americas. From the frigid, windswept tundras of the north to the desolate, sprawling landscapes of Patagonia in the south, type O blood is overwhelmingly predominant. This unique genetic signature sharply contrasts with populations in most other parts of the world, where the A or B blood group alleles are often found with greater frequency, or where recent mutations leading to these types have been extensively identified. Mexico, a nation celebrated for its rich ethnic and cultural diversity, exhibits a remarkable feature in terms of blood groups. The O allele is the most common among studied indigenous populations, registering a staggering frequency that often surpasses 88%. Taking this a step further, an additional study conducted on the Guatuso people of Costa Rica provided an even more notable perspective. Type O blood was found to be present in 100% of the individuals considered to be of pure indigenous lineage. Findings such as these underscore the genetic singularity of specific indigenous communities, highlighting how millennia of history, combined with geographical isolation and specific evolutionary pressures, may have consolidated the prevalence of a particular blood group. What makes these genetic findings so captivating is the notion that behind every statistic and every allele lies a wealth of human history. Each of these blood groups carries with it an evolutionary legacy, an adaptive response to the environmental challenges and threats that these populations successfully navigated throughout their history. Exceptions to the rule. The Blackfeet and blood tribes. It is crucial to emphasize that the distribution of blood types is not entirely uniform across all Native American tribes and populations. A few notable exceptions exist, such as the Blackfeet, Siksikaitsitapi, and blood Kainai tribes, who exhibit surprisingly high percentages of type A blood. The Blackfeet, known as the Siksikaitsitapi, translating to Blackfoot people or people of the Blackfeet, are a group of Native Americans whose rich history unfolds against the majestic backdrop of Montana in the United States. Their narrative is interwoven with the courage of those who were historically compelled to abandon their ancestral territories in the upper Great Lakes region as European conquest advanced. Within the Blackfeet Confederacy, we find the Piegan branch, an integral part of their enduring lineage, primarily residing on the Blackfeet Reservation. However, two other significant bands, the Bloods, Kenai, and the North Blackfeet, Siksika, established their homes on Canadian Indian reserves scattered throughout Alberta, Canada. Let us now delve into the blood type of their members. The Blackfeet and blood tribes have been subjects of scientific inquiry precisely because of their atypical blood group distribution. While the type O group predominates in most Indigenous American communities, The Blackfeet and Blood tribes stand as striking exceptions. In their blood, the percentage of type A blood is as prominent as type O is in other tribes. This genetic enigma continues to pose questions that do not yet have fully satisfactory answers, suggesting that the evolution of blood types remains a dynamic and complex process, even in populations that have remained relatively isolated and previously displayed consistent genetic patterns. The molecular basis of blood types and the uniqueness of type O. Blood types are a foundational component of human biology, providing a vital guide for compatibility in blood transfusions and organ transplants, while also encapsulating a unique and diverse genetic history. Fundamentally, blood types are determined by the presence or absence of specific antigens on the surface of our red blood cells, erythrocytes. These minute markers can trigger a severe immunological response if they are perceived as foreign by our body. This mechanism gives rise to the four primary ABO categories: A, B, AB, and O. These designations are formed based on the presence or absence of two crucial antigens, A and B, adorning the surface of the red blood cells. The story is further complicated by the introduction of the Rh factor, a protein that determines whether a blood type is positive, Rh+, or negative, Rh. This results in the 8 most common blood types: A+, A, B+, B, O+, O, AB+, and AB. Our blood type is inherited from our parents, with each contributing a gene that determines our specific blood grouping. This process of genetic transmission grants us our unique blood identity. Yet, these blood types are not merely medical labels. They have a profound impact on the capacity to donate and receive blood. Understanding one's blood type is crucial in emergency situations and for those requiring transfusions. It is important to underline that the distribution of blood types can vary significantly among different populations, a variability that is not strictly tied to ethnicity or culture, underscoring the marvelous diversity of human genetics. The universal donor. The power of type. O blood. This brings us to the type O blood group. This group, in its positive and negative variants, is scientifically admired for its versatility and life-saving potential in critical situations. Type O positive blood is compatible with all positive blood types, including O+, A+, B+, and AB+. This makes it essential in emergency and mass casualty scenarios when the recipient's exact blood type is unknown. However, the medical crown jewel is type O negative blood, famously known as the universal red blood cell donor. It lacks both the A and B antigens on the surface of its red blood cells, which means it can be safely transfused to individuals with any blood type without causing severe immunological reactions. This makes it an invaluable resource in cases of trauma and medical urgency. While its advantage is being a universal donor of red blood cells, its major drawback is that type O negative individuals can only receive blood from other O negative donors. Conversely, individuals with AB blood are considered the universal plasma donors, as their plasma is compatible with all blood types, a critical factor in the production of blood components and medical treatments. What defines type O blood is the absence of both A and B antigens on the red blood cell surface. This fundamental lack of markers makes it compatible with other blood types, placing it in high demand for emergency situations. Expanded content, molecular and biochemical detail of type O. To grasp the uniqueness of type O in the Indigenous American context, one must appreciate the molecular process. The ABO blood groups are determined by the ABO gene, which codes for glycosyltransferase enzymes. These enzymes add specific sugar molecules, antigens, to a foundational molecule present on the red cell surface, known as the H antigen, or H substance. Type A. The A allele codes for an enzyme that adds N-acetylgalactosamine to the H antigen. Type B. The B allele codes for an enzyme that adds D-galactose to the H antigen. Type O. The O allele is typically a null allele resulting from a single nucleotide deletion. This deletion causes a frameshift mutation, leading to a non-functional enzyme. Consequently, the enzyme fails to add any sugar to the H antigen, leaving the H antigen unchanged and resulting in the type O phenotype. The overwhelming prevalence of the O allele in many indigenous American groups suggests a strong founder effect and/or bottleneck event in the ancestral populations that first crossed into the Americas, locking in the high frequency of this specific null allele. Blood type and personality. Cultural beliefs. It is important to acknowledge a fascinating cultural belief, particularly prominent in Japan, where the blood type is often associated with specific personality traits. In this society, the first question asked is often one's blood type, which has become a kind of daily ritual. Many Japanese people believe that a person's blood type can reveal a great deal about their character and suitability for different relationships. Type O individuals are often associated with interesting characteristics such as being extroverted, entrepreneurial, and daring. They are often perceived as confident and strong, as well as flexible and easily adaptable to change. Furthermore, people with type O blood are believed to have a more free-spirited personality and be more prone to risk-taking. They possess the capacity to lead groups and help others achieve their goals, often characterized as perfectionists, generous, and kind-hearted. While there is no scientific consensus on the relationship between blood type and personality, the type O blood group remains an interesting component of identity and culture in many parts of the world. Theories on the prevalence of type O blood in indigenous groups. There are several compelling theories regarding the overwhelming prevalence of type O blood in indigenous American groups. While it would be challenging to cover every hypothesis, we will focus on the two most widely accepted by the scientific community, followed by a deeper dive into the role of ancient migrations. 1. The evolutionary advantage theory, selection. Imagine a journey back in time to the earliest eras of human settlement in the Americas. At that time, across the vast lands of what we now know as the Americas, people shared a common trait, the type O blood group. According to this theory, it is believed that this singular prevalence of the O blood group originated because the mutation leading to the O allele granted these ancient populations a survival advantage. Think of it as a genetic adaptation that provided those who possessed it with a higher probability of surviving and thriving in their specific environment. As Charles Darwin postulated in his theory of evolution, the species that survive are those best adapted to changes in their surroundings. In this context, the presence of the type O blood group may be considered a remarkable example of how evolution operates in practice, possibly due to a selective pressure related to disease resistance, as will be discussed later. 2. The genetic isolation and drift theory. Chance. The second main theory is called the genetic theory and focuses on the role of chance, isolation, and small population sizes. Imagine that blood groups are like culinary recipes passed down from generation to generation. Each recipe has special ingredients called genes that determine your blood group: A, B, AB, or O. In the case of indigenous groups, it is as if a specific recipe, the O blood group, became highly prevalent in their ancestral region. This special recipe was transmitted through generations because of its frequency within a small founding group that became reproductively isolated. In more scientific terms, indigenous groups may exhibit a high prevalence of certain blood groups due to genetic drift and the founder effect. Genetic drift. This refers to the random fluctuations in the frequency of genes within a small population. In small groups, especially those isolated for long periods, chance events can cause the O allele to become dominant simply by accident, not selection. Founder effect. This occurs when a small group of individuals separates from a larger population to establish a new settlement. In this process, they only carry a fraction of the genetic information of their original population. If, by chance, the few individuals who successfully migrated, the founders, had a high frequency of the O allele, This allele would then become the dominant blood type in the entire subsequent population, leading to a significant reduction in genetic variability, the ABO system diversity, within the new group. The intriguing aspect is that both theories, evolutionary selection and genetic chance, may not necessarily be mutually exclusive. They both contribute significantly to our comprehensive understanding of blood type diversity in the global population. Expanded content: the role of migration routes and bottlenecks. The most critical factor supporting the genetic isolation and drift theory is the bottleneck phenomenon associated with the initial settlement of the Americas. The ancestral populations of the Americas can trace their origins back to the Siberia region. It is widely accepted that they crossed into the Americas via the Bering Strait, or Beringia, a land bridge that connected present-day Russia and Alaska during the last glacial period. The bottleneck event. The population that crossed Beringia was likely a relatively small subset of the larger ancestral population in Asia. This first wave of migrants experienced a severe and prolonged genetic bottleneck, a sharp, temporary reduction in population size. The few thousand individuals who survived and entered the Americas would have carried only a restricted portion of the full ABO genetic diversity. If the O allele happened to be highly prevalent in this specific small founding group, it would then be amplified across all subsequent generations of indigenous Americans. Migration routes. There are two primary proposed migration routes: the ice-free corridor, an inland route that opened up between the massive Cordilleran and Laurentide ice sheets, allowing people to move south through the interior of the continent. The Pacific coastal route. A route along the coast that may have been navigable by boat, allowing for a much faster expansion south and potentially bypassing the bottleneck of the inland route. The sheer genetic homogeneity, high type O, low diversity in other systems like Diego, suggests that the founder population was indeed very small, or that the initial isolation was extremely rigid, favoring the consolidation of the O blood type across vast geographic regions. Global comparison. The ABO landscape. In the diverse sea of human blood, the O group stands out as one of the largest worldwide. Approximately 38% of the global population carries the valuable label of O positive in their veins, making it one of the most common blood types on our planet. On average, 1 in every 3 people you meet has this blood type. The true rarity of the O group, however, is O negative blood, a treasure possessed by only 7% of the world's population. Globally, the ABO distribution is as follows. Type A, the global leader, accounting for approximately 40% of the world's population, A+ and A combined. Type O follows closely behind, accounting for approximately 38%, O+ and O combined. Type B ranks third, with B positive running through the veins of about 9% of the population, and B negative accounting for 2%. Type AB, the least common, with both Rh factors combined not totaling even 4% of the world's inhabitants. It must be noted that the percentage of individuals with type O blood can vary widely even within countries and regions. These figures are approximations, reminding us that in every drop of blood there is a world of singularity and complexity still being discovered. Type O. Across the continents. The O group stands out on several continents in ways that are truly astonishing. The Americas, the zenith of type O. This vast land of lush jungles and majestic mountains witnesses a striking concentration of the O blood group. Here, among the indigenous populations of Central and South America, the O group boldly approaches 100% in several communities, e.g., the Guatuso, representing arguably the highest concentration of this blood group within any single ethnic group on the planet. United States, O positive is the most common blood type. Afro-Americans lead in the percentage of O positive blood, while Latinos often show a higher percentage of B positive blood than other groups. Mexico. O positive surpasses half the population with an astounding 56.6%. The enigmatic AB type has a presence of barely 0.4%. Ecuador and Peru. These countries are prominent examples, with type O positive reaching 75% and 70% of their respective populations. Africa. The African continent shows a solid affinity with the O group in various countries. Nations such as Ghana, Libya, Congo, and Egypt exhibit more individuals with type O than those with A positive. In some of the continent's most populated countries, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Tanzania, South Africa, approximately half the population belongs to the O blood group. Asia. Asia presents a diverse mosaic. India. O positive leads the way, encompassing around 30% of the population. But type B also shows high prevalence. China. O positive is the most common, with an approximate presence of 36%. Japan. A notable exception, where type A leads with a 40% prevalence, while the O group follows closely. Pakistan and Afghanistan. Here, type B positive is often the most common blood group, reflecting historical migration patterns. Europe. Europe represents an interesting spectrum. In countries like Germany, France, Italy, Norway, and Ukraine, the predominant blood group is A positive, often around 35 to 40%. Conversely, the Spanish and the British have a higher population belonging to O positive, around 36%, often slightly surpassing type A. In all cases, the minority group is AB negative. Ancient history and type O blood in the Americas. The genetic journey. The history of populations with type O blood in the Americas is an intricate puzzle that archaeological and anthropological research is passionately piecing together. It is a journey into the past that takes us from the frozen expanses of Siberia to the vast American lands. A key element in this fascinating narrative is the Diego blood group system, a revolutionary tool that was unveiled in the 1950s. This system has acted as a bright beacon, illuminating the ancestral path of populations across the Bering Strait, Beringia, the ancient land bridge that initially connected the Amerindians with Siberia. The most intriguing finding involves the dia allele of the Diego system. This small segment of DNA revealed the existence of two founding populations in the Americas, one of which had deep ties to contemporary East Asians and Siberians. It suggests an ancient Paleo-Siberian population, an amalgamation of lineages that originated in ancient East Asia and separated from other East Asian peoples before the last glacial maximum. These lineages later merged in Siberia. The ancestral Native Americans, in turn, emerged from an ancient Paleo-Siberian lineage, a result of the mixture of East Asian peoples who crossed the Bering Strait when the geographical landscape was very different from today's. Expanded content, the Diego blood system, and genetic markers. The Diego blood system is composed of two antigens, DA and DIB, residing on the surface of red blood cells. These genetic markers allow us to track population movements throughout history. Scientific studies have shed light on the fascinating variability of the DA antigen in Native American populations. In some of these populations, the prevalence of the DIA antigen is particularly low or absent, a phenomenon strongly correlated with their unique genetic history and ancient migration patterns. While the Diego blood system is not directly related to the prevalence of type O blood, its study significantly contributes to the understanding of the genetic history of these populations and their complex migration patterns. The high frequency of the O allele and the high frequency of the DA allele are considered two of the most distinctive genetic markers shared by nearly all indigenous populations south of the North American ice sheets, a clear sign of the dramatic founder effect that defined the settlement of the continent. Disease and type O blood. Susceptibility and resistance. The relationship between blood type and health is complex and constantly evolving, with ongoing research continually shedding new light on the associations between blood types and specific diseases. Scientific discoveries reveal that blood types can play a crucial role in conferring resistance or susceptibility to various illnesses in indigenous populations and beyond. In general terms, individuals with blood types other than O, A, B, and AB tend to be more susceptible to certain diseases. This is generally good news for the majority of Indigenous Americans, though challenging for those who do not belong to that blood group. Advantage: resistance to severe malaria. Type O blood appears to confer an additional defense against severe malaria caused by the Plasmodium falciparum parasite. Red blood cells from O-type individuals are less likely to stick together and adhere to the walls of blood vessels, a key mechanism in the development of severe, life-threatening malaria. This resistance may have constituted a powerful selective advantage in environments where malaria was endemic, potentially influencing the high prevalence of this blood type through natural selection. Reduced risk of chronic diseases, generally. Individuals with type O blood generally enjoy a lower risk of certain chronic conditions, including coronary heart disease. Studies suggest a lower risk, possibly linked to differences in levels of von Willebrand factor, a clotting protein that is found at higher levels in non-O blood types. Stomach cancer. Type O blood is associated with a lower risk compared to type A. Type 2 diabetes. The risk is lower compared to type B. COVID-19 pandemic. During the COVID-19 pandemic, studies indicated that type O blood might confer a degree of protection against a severe infection or a reduced risk of hospitalization and intubation. However, it did not grant immunity, merely a statistical reduction in the most severe outcomes. Disadvantage: increased susceptibility to specific infections. The O blood group is not without its vulnerabilities. Cholera. Curiously, individuals in the O group appear to be more prone to hospitalization due to cholera, caused by Vibrio cholerae, than those with other blood groups. This disparity is paradoxical in regions where cholera is endemic, like the Ganges River Delta in India and Bangladesh, where the O blood group is less common. Gastrointestinal infections. They are also more susceptible to certain infectious gastrointestinal outbreaks, such as those caused by Escherichia coli O157. Ulcers. Studies often link type O individuals to a higher risk of developing peptic ulcers, largely due to a potential higher susceptibility to Helicobacter pylori infection. The health crisis in Native Americans, historical and contemporary challenges. The history of Native American health is a tapestry woven with resistance and resilience in the face of considerable challenges. These populations have been victims of both autochthonous diseases and those introduced by European contact, which left an indelible mark on their health and well-being. Before European arrival, diseases like Chagas disease, caused by Trypanosoma cruzi, and tuberculosis were endemic. Paleopathology studies have found evidence of tuberculosis in Peruvian skeletons hundreds of years old. Modern studies suggest that people with AB blood have a higher risk of becoming infected with tuberculosis than those with type O blood, reinforcing the concept of blood type as a factor in disease susceptibility. Today, however, the primary health flags for Native American communities are contemporary scourges, diabetes, and heart disease. Native Americans have a significantly higher probability of developing these conditions compared to other populations. These health challenges are deeply intertwined with a long history of systemic abandonment and discrimination, alongside a lack of adequate health programs and limited access to quality medical care. Cultural and spiritual significance. Blood in Indigenous cosmology. The blood rituals performed by different Indigenous American communities are a fascinating reminder of the complexity of the ancestral beliefs and spirituality of these cultures. Throughout the centuries, these rituals have served as bridges between the divine and the earthly, where the symbolism of death and rebirth intertwines with the literal act of shedding blood. In this context, blood is considered an extremely powerful force, but at times it is also perceived as impure, adding a layer of mystery and respect around it. Manifestations of this mystical significance include blood sacrifice, ritual bloodletting, blood consumption, and related taboos. Aztec sacrifices and sun worship. The Aztecs, between 1376 and 1521 AD, carried out elaborate blood rituals. For them, blood had profound symbolic significance, varying according to the group and the specific ritual. They offered blood and sacrifices to the sun god, a practice rooted in deep mythology and religion. Blood brotherhood. Rituals of blood brotherhood were common in various cultures. In these ceremonies, two or more individuals intermingled their blood, symbolizing a deep and spiritual union. Each drop of shared blood became an indelible bond, a tangible manifestation of their commitment and spiritual connection. Power and ancestry. For some indigenous cultures, blood is seen as a direct source of ancestral and human power, and the act of drinking blood takes on a profound meaning in ceremonial context. Through this ritual, they seek to connect with their roots and access a transcendental force. It is important to note that not all indigenous communities give the same weight to blood in their cultures. Beliefs and spiritual practices vary widely among different tribes, underscoring the richness of cultural diversity on the continent. Blood quantum and identity. A key aspect of modern indigenous identity and governance in the U.S. and Canada is the concept of blood quantum. Many Native nations use a measure of the amount of Indian blood an individual has as part of their citizenship requirements. This measure is a government-imposed concept that often dictates who is legally recognized as a tribal member. The way tribes use blood quantum varies, but it is not necessarily related to the ABO blood type. Rather, it is a historical, legal, and political mechanism for defining identity and lineage. Benefits for science and medicine from type O blood. The future of medicine is being shaped by continuous advancements in genetics and biotechnology. As our understanding of indigenous genetics and blood groups deepens, new possibilities open up for the development of more personalized and effective treatments and therapies. Genomics, the study of genes and their relationship to health, is enabling more precise treatments. Blood types are only one piece of the relevant genetic information. In the future, genomic data could be used to develop specific therapies for patients based on their genetic profiles, including treatments for diseases that disproportionately affect type O individuals or those susceptible to pathogens common in indigenous territories. It is crucial to stress that not all indigenous Americans share the same genetic profile. Even within the type O blood group, genetic diversity is a key factor to consider in therapy development, as what works for one ethnic group or population may not be effective or safe for another. Specific scientific contributions that could benefit medicine and the future of genetic research include molecular characterization of the O allele. Deeper molecular characterization of the O allele and its associated genes could provide a profound understanding of the possible reasons behind this blood group's dominance. Advanced Diego system. Research. New advancements in research on the Diego blood group system in Amerindians could provide a treasure trove of information about the genetic and cultural history of these populations, aiding in the comparative analysis of genetic diversity and population structure. Personalized disease treatment. A better understanding of how the O blood group influences health could lead to significant advances in disease prevention and treatment, personalizing healthcare according to blood and genetic factors. Finally, and most importantly, any genetic research involving indigenous communities must fundamentally address ethical issues, including informed consent, data privacy, respect for beliefs and culture, and the principle of data sovereignty, which asserts the right of native nations to govern the collection, ownership, and application of their data. As we uncover the secrets of these genes, we move toward a world where healthcare is more precise, history is enriched, and our understanding of human diversity is deepened. The story of this unique blood legacy is an epic whispered to us by our ancestors, spanning thousands of years. The silent power of typo blood and the resilience of Indigenous Americans once again show us how deep and diverse human history truly is. Join us to help this story reach more people. Become a part of our family by subscribing right now. Hit the like button to show your interest in this valuable knowledge. Leave your questions or comments about the video below. Stay tuned for more inspiring discoveries on our channel.